What if everything you've been told about living longer is completely wrong? What if the secret to adding years to your life has nothing to do with eating more vegetables, hitting the gym 5 times a week, or taking a handful of supplements every morning? What if the real answer is so simple, so obvious, that most people overlook it entirely? Here's the truth that might shock you. The key to living longer and healthier isn't about what you need to do more of. It's about what you need to stop doing. It's about what you need to let go of. And a groundbreaking study from Harvard University that followed over 700 people for 85 years proves it. Yes, 85 years of meticulous research tracking real lives, real choices, and real outcomes. And what they discovered will fundamentally change the way you think about stress, aging, and what really matters in life. The people who lived the longest and enjoyed the healthiest, most fulfilling lives weren't the ones obsessing over their diet plans or running marathons. They were the ones who learned to stop caring about things that simply didn't matter. Let me give you a number that should stop you dead in your tracks. Chronic stress increases your risk of heart disease by 40%. Not 4%, not 14%, 40%. The American Psychological Association conducted research on adults over 60 and found something alarming. Those who held on to unnecessary worries, who couldn't let things go, had cortisol levels that were 31% higher than people who practiced the art of letting go. And cortisol isn't just some harmless chemical floating around in your bloodstream. It's the stress hormone that literally ages your body from the inside out. It breaks down your muscle tissue. It weakens your immune system, leaving you vulnerable to illness. It even shrinks your brain over time, affecting your memory and cognitive function. And here's the worst part. Most of the things causing this devastating stress response are things you have complete and total control over. They're worries you're choosing to carry. They're burdens you don't need to bear. Think about everything that worried you in the last week. Take a moment and really think about it. How much of it actually mattered in any meaningful way? How much of it will matter in 5 years? If you're being honest with yourself, probably very little. Research published in the Journal of Aging and Health found something remarkable. People who learned to release unnecessary concerns, who consciously let go of things that didn't serve them, showed a 23% improvement in overall life satisfaction within just 3 months. 3 months to feel 23% happier. That's not wishful thinking. That's not positive affirmations or empty self-help talk. That's hard science. That's measurable, repeatable results. Now I know what you're thinking. It's not that easy to just stop caring. And you're absolutely right. It's not. It takes practice, it takes awareness, and it takes intentional effort every single day. But once you understand exactly what you should stop caring about and why holding on to these things is actively hurting you, something shifts. The transformation begins almost immediately. The weight lifts off your shoulders, your blood pressure drops, your sleep improves dramatically, your relationships get better. Everything changes. But here's what really shocked me when I was researching this information. The number one thing that people over 60 need to stop caring about is something that most people actually hold on to tighter as they get older. A study from the University of California followed over 3,000 adults and discovered that those who released this one thing added an average of 7.5 years to their lives. 7.5 extra years. That's nearly a decade of additional life just from letting go of one single thing. Stay with me because we're going to count down through 8 things you need to stop caring about. And when we get to number 1, you're going to want to remember every word. These aren't just suggestions. These are scientifically proven factors that are either adding to your life or subtracting from it. Let's start with number 8 and work our way up to the most important and life-changing one. Number 8 is your perfectly clean house. Let's begin with something that might seem small and insignificant, but is actually draining more of your energy than you realize. That obsession with keeping your home spotless, with making sure every surface shines and every cushion is perfectly placed, is quietly stealing your peace of mind and your precious time. A study published in the Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that women who described their homes as cluttered or full of unfinished projects had cortisol levels that remained elevated throughout the day. But here's the surprising and counterintuitive part. The same study found that those who obsessed over keeping everything perfect, who couldn't rest until every little thing was in its place, had even higher stress levels than those who simply accepted a little mess. The key word there is obsessed. There's a massive difference between maintaining a reasonably tidy home and exhausting yourself trying to achieve magazine cover perfection that isn't sustainable or realistic. Research from UCLA's Center on Everyday Lives and Families examined 32 middle-class families in detail and discovered something fascinating. The families who focused less on perfect housekeeping and more on actually enjoying their living spaces reported 47% higher levels of daily happiness. They spent more time connecting with loved ones, having meaningful conversations, creating memories, and less time scrubbing baseboards that nobody would ever notice anyway. Here's how to let this go in a healthy way that works. Start by identifying your non-negotiables, the things that genuinely matter to you. Maybe for you that's a clean kitchen and a made bed. Great, focus on those two things and let the rest slide more often than you currently do. The dust on your ceiling fan is not judging you. Your visitors are not inspecting your window tracks with a magnifying glass. And if they are, then that says far more about them than it does about you. Set a time limit for cleaning each day, 30 minutes maximum. When the timer goes off, you stop. Whatever didn't get done can wait till tomorrow, and the world will keep spinning. Research from the Journal of Environmental Psychology shows that people who set firm boundaries around household tasks experienced a 29% reduction in daily anxiety. Your home should be a place of rest and rejuvenation, not a source of endless chores and stress. Give yourself permission to live in your space, rather than constantly maintaining it to impossible standards. Number 7 is keeping up with technology and trends. Stop trying to understand every new app your grandchildren are using. Stop feeling embarrassed when you can't figure out the self-checkout machine on the first try. Stop believing that you need to be on every social media platform to stay relevant in today's world. A survey conducted by the Pew Research Center found that 68% of adults over 65 feel overwhelmed by the pace of technological change. But here's what the research actually shows about this stress and how it affects you. A study in the journals Cyber Psychology, Behavior, and Social Networking found that older adults who selectively engaged with technology, choosing only what genuinely served them rather than trying to master everything, reported 52% higher satisfaction with their digital experiences. The key word there is selectively. You don't need to know how to use TikTok. You don't need to understand cryptocurrency or blockchain or NFTs or whatever the next big thing is. You don't need the latest smartphone if your current one makes calls and sends texts just fine. The pressure to keep up is manufactured by companies that want to sell you things and make you feel inadequate without their products. It's not a reflection of your worth or your intelligence. Research from Stanford University's Center on Longevity found that adults who focused on mastering just 2 or 3 technologies that genuinely improved their daily lives showed better cognitive function than those who constantly tried to learn new platforms out of obligation or fear of falling behind. Quality over quantity applies to technology too. Pick the tools that actually help you stay connected to the people you love, that make your life easier in tangible ways, and forget the rest without guilt. Here's a practical approach that works. Ask yourself one simple question before learning any new technology. Will this genuinely improve my daily life, or am I just trying to keep up with others? If it's the latter, give yourself permission to skip it entirely. Your time is too valuable to spend frustrated in front of a screen learning something you'll never use. Number 6 is your physical appearance and aging. Those wrinkles on your face are not flaws that need to be hidden or corrected. They're evidence of a life fully lived, of years spent laughing and expressing emotions. Every laugh line tells a story of joy. Every gray hair represents wisdom earned through experience. Yet billions of dollars are spent each year by industries that profit from convincing you that looking your age is somehow shameful or unacceptable.
A study published in the Journal of Women and Aging surveyed over 500 women between the ages of 60 and 85, and the results were absolutely eye-opening. Women who accepted their aging appearance, who embraced the changes as natural and even beautiful, had depression rates that were 61% lower than those who constantly fought against it with procedures and products and endless worry. 61%. That's not a small difference. That's absolutely life-changing. Research from the Yale School of Public Health found something even more remarkable and powerful. People who held positive views about aging lived an average of 7.5 years longer than those who viewed aging negatively. Let that sink in for a moment. Your attitude about your wrinkles and gray hair could literally add years to your life. The stress of fighting the inevitable is far more damaging than the aging itself. Here's the truth that the multi-billion-dollar beauty industry doesn't want you to know and actively works to hide from you. A study from the University.
This simple reframe has been shown to reduce stress hormone release by 27%, according to research from the University of California at Berkeley. Practice what I call the art of the mental shrug. Someone is rude to you at the grocery store. Shrug it off. The Wi-Fi goes out for 10 minutes. Shrug. The weather ruins your outdoor plans. Shrug and make new ones. Each time you consciously choose not to react, you strengthen neural pathways that make calmness your default setting instead of anxiety. A study in the journal Emotion found that people who practice this technique for just 30 days showed lasting improvements in emotional regulation that persisted for over a year afterward. Number 4 is past mistakes and regrets. That business opportunity you missed in 1987, the relationship you wish you had handled differently, the words you said in anger that you can't take back. These regrets are taking up valuable real estate in your mind and paying absolutely no rent. Research from Concordia University found that adults who ruminated on past regrets had cortisol levels that were 38% higher than those who practiced acceptance of their history. The study followed participants for 5 years and found that chronic regret was associated with a 29% increased risk of developing depression and a 19% increased risk of anxiety disorders. Here's what neuroscience tells us about regret and how your brain processes it. When you replay past mistakes in your mind, your brain cannot tell the difference between remembering the event and experiencing it again in real time. A study using functional MRI scans showed that the same stress centers in the brain activate whether you're living through a difficult moment or just thinking about one from decades ago. Every single time you revisit that regret, you're essentially reliving the trauma all over again, as if it's happening right now. But here's the good news that gives us hope and a path forward. The same research shows that reframing past events as learning experiences rather than failures reduces this stress response by up to 45%. You're not the same person who made those decisions years or decades ago. You've grown, you've changed, you've learned. Judging your past self by your current wisdom isn't fair to either version of you. A practical technique that works comes from research at the University of Texas. Write down your biggest regret on a piece of paper. Then write down 3 things that experience taught you, 3 lessons you carry with you today. Finally, write down how that lesson has made your life better in some way, even if the benefit was small or took years to recognize. This exercise literally rewires how your brain stores the memory, changing it from a source of pain to a source of growth. Participants who did this regularly showed a 52% reduction in regret-related rumination within just 2 months. Your past shaped you into who you are today, but it doesn't have to imprison you or control your present. Number 3 is being right all the time. That burning need to prove your point in every disagreement, to win every argument, to never back down is exhausting you and pushing the people you care about away. And here's the hard truth that nobody wants to hear. Even when you win the argument, you often lose something far more valuable in the process. Research from the University of Michigan examined conflict patterns in over 300 couples aged 60 and older. They found that partners who prioritized being right over being connected had relationship satisfaction scores that were 44% lower than couples who learned to let things go and choose peace over victory. The study also found that the need to be right was associated with higher blood pressure readings during and after disagreements, affecting cardiovascular health. A study published in the Journal of Marriage and Family followed couples for 20 years and found something remarkable and unexpected. The single biggest predictor of relationship longevity wasn't communication style or shared interests, or even how often couples fought. It was the willingness to let go of the need to win arguments. Couples who could say the words, "You might be right," even when they didn't fully believe it, even when they still had doubts, stayed together 73% longer than couples who always had to have the last word. Here's what happens in your body when you argue to win, when proving your point becomes more important than anything else. Your sympathetic nervous system activates, releasing adrenaline and cortisol into your bloodstream. Your heart rate increases. Your blood vessels constrict. Research from Ohio State University found that hostile arguments between older couples actually slowed wound healing by 40%. Your need to be right is literally preventing your body from repairing itself physically. Practice this instead and watch how your life changes. Before responding in a disagreement, ask yourself, what's more important to me right now, being right or being at peace? Most of the time, if you're truly honest with yourself, you'll find that peace wins. A study from Harvard Business School found that leaders who admitted they didn't have all the answers were rated as 35% more trustworthy than those who always claimed to be correct. Letting go of being right doesn't make you weak or a pushover, it makes you wise. Number 2 is what other people think of you. The judgment you fear from others is almost always an illusion you've created in your own mind. People are far too busy worrying about themselves, their own problems, their own insecurities, to spend much time evaluating your choices. Yet this imaginary audience controls so much of your behavior, your decisions, your happiness. Research from Cornell University discovered what psychologists call the spotlight effect, and it's fascinating. Their studies found that people consistently overestimate how much others notice and remember about them by a factor of 2 to 3 times. That embarrassing thing you said at dinner last week that keeps replaying in your mind, nobody else remembers it. That outfit you weren't sure about, nobody noticed or cared. The spotlight you feel shining on you, examining everything you do, is mostly in your imagination. A groundbreaking study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology followed participants over 15 years, tracking their concerns and well-being. Those who scored high on measures of social comparison and concern about others' opinions had anxiety rates that were 67% higher than those who had learned to tune out external judgment and live for themselves. The energy spent worrying about what others think is one of the biggest drains on happiness that researchers have ever measured. Here's a liberating truth backed by solid science. Research from the University of Hertfordshire found that by age 60, most people genuinely care less about your life choices than you think they do. Their own concerns about health, family, mortality, and legacy take up almost all of their mental bandwidth. You're not being watched and judged nearly as much as you feel you are. The practical way to release this burden is through something researchers call authentic living, and it's powerful. A study in the Journal of Counseling Psychology found that adults who made decisions based on their own values rather than perceived social expectations reported life satisfaction scores that were 51% higher. Start small and build momentum. Wear what you actually like, not what you think others expect. Say no to invitations that drain you without making elaborate excuses. State your real opinion when asked, instead of saying what you think people want to hear. Each authentic choice weakens the grip of external judgment on your life and brings you closer to true happiness. But nothing we've discussed so far compares to the importance of what comes next. This is the big one. Number 1 is toxic relationships. This is the one that changes everything. The one that has the biggest impact on whether you live a long, healthy, and happy life after 60. That family member who constantly criticizes you and makes you feel small. That friend who only calls when they need something, but is never there when you need support.
that neighbor who drains your energy every single time you interact. These relationships aren't just unpleasant or annoying, they're literally shortening your life in measurable ways. The Harvard study of adult development is the longest-running study of happiness ever conducted, spanning 85 years and multiple generations of families. The single most important finding from all that decades of research was this: the quality of your relationships is the #1 predictor of health and longevity. Not genetics, not wealth, not career success. Relationships. And toxic relationships do the exact opposite of what healthy ones do. They actively damage your health day after day. Research published in the Journal of the American Heart Association found that negative relationships increase the risk of heart disease by 34%. A study from UCLA discovered that people in chronically stressful relationships had immune system markers that indicated accelerated cellular aging of up to 10 years. Your body is keeping score of every toxic interaction, and the bill eventually comes due in your health. Here's what happens physiologically when you spend time with someone who treats you poorly, someone who makes you feel bad about yourself. Your body enters a low-grade fight-or-flight state. Cortisol floods your system. Inflammation increases throughout your body. Your telomeres, which are the protective caps on your DNA that determine how long you live, shorten faster than they should. A study from Ohio State University found that couples in hostile marriages had telomere lengths equivalent to people 6 years older than their actual age. The research is clear and unambiguous on what you need to do for your health and happiness. A study published in Personal Relationships found that adults who set firm boundaries with toxic people or ended those relationships entirely showed a 41% improvement in self-reported well-being within just 6 months. Those who reduced contact with negative influences, cortisol levels dropped by an average of 23%. This doesn't mean you have to cut everyone off dramatically with confrontation and burned